Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Hustle to Wealthy. Today I'm here with Arthur, a dear friend, colleague, and an incredible coach here. Arthur, hi, welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here. How are you doing?
Yeah, good to see you. Like Arthur is on the other side of the world in Cyprus, and he is one incredible coach. For the last 10 years, he's been working with high net worth individuals or people, that have probably more money than sense, mainly men, who are feeling, having the desire that there's more to life than this. So they are on a quest to find themselves, improve their relationships, improve their lives in general. And Arthur gets the pleasure to take these people all around the world and taking them through a transformational journey, making sure that they get more out of life than just earning money. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's exactly right. Especially with men. Men often chase money as thinking that that's going to answer all the problems, all the issues, and until one day they realize it doesn't. And that's when the work begins.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I love what you're doing because it has been changing the last 3, 4, 5 years. But before that, like especially here on this side of the world, it was very much like the man had to be the breadwinner, the man had to be, masculine, had to be the one who doesn't show emotion, had to be the one who's going to provide for the family, had to be done, and there's this whole list of expectation of what a man should be. And I remember the transition that Tyrell had when he had this expectation of himself about like this is who I needed to be as a man. And then when he faced chronic fatigue and had to redefine what it actually means being a man, it was really nice that groups like yours or like support networks like yours were there so he could talk to other men to go and say, actually, that idea of what a man should be is not the idea that, well, it's not who I am, really, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a big issue because you have, excuse me, you have society's whole perspective of what a man should be, and that has shifted over the years to now, like everyone bashing for it seems like men for any reason, and men should be like this, men should be like that, and so really figuring out what is your version of being an authentic man, for each guy, because there are some generalities, but there's also some very specific things, and so everyone gets to define that for themselves. Um, and so yeah, it's an ongoing thing, and there's a lot of work to be done. And luckily, unfortunately, more and more men are taking to this kind of work, whereas before they wouldn't. One of the big things with men is that they don't ask for help. And so if they don't ask for help, they battle alone. We call it lone wolfing. And when you lone wolf it, the results are really good because if you don't have the answers, how are you going to move forward? So yeah, so more and more men are putting their hands up and saying, "Help! I need some help," and we get that to them, and then they bloom, and go off and create fulfilling lives and better relationships, better lifestyle, all across the board. And that's what it's all about. It's not about just surviving. We like to do thrive in this world, and we can.
So for all the men here who are listening, who are doing it on their own and fighting it out on their own, what is like a thing or two you might say to them to go, this is time for me to reach out to someone and have a conversation and go, maybe I need support and help from, I'm not saying necessarily a professional, but like a friend or
Mhm.
like a conversation with someone like you or a professional. Like what, let's inspire men to go and say, hey, I want to put my hand up. What would be the thing you would say?
Well, I think when the pain gets too much to carry on, all right, that's when you reach out, and hopefully before then, because it won't get better, all right? There's too many men suffering and then distracting themselves because things aren't going well. So they distract themselves either with porn, with alcohol, with drugs, with working too hard. That's also can be a distraction. Instead of addressing the issues that can be addressed quite easily if they just put their hands up. And so it's not just about providing for others. It's not about just being there for others. Yes, that's a big part of it. But you've got to be there for yourself as well. Because if you fall over, then what happens down the line? your family falls over, potentially your kids fall over. So men have to start taking care of themselves, and that way around, they're going to have a lot more fun. Things are going to balance out. They're going to create the kind of lifestyle that they've always been dreaming of, but maybe haven't been able to attain up to that point. And so the sooner they can start doing some of the work, the sooner they can start accessing more of their life. And, and at the moment, and not to get morbid on this, but like middle-aged men, are one of the highest suicide demographics. And why is that? Because they won't ask for help. Because they think they're ashamed to ask for help, or they feel guilty. I should know this. I should, be able to do this. And no one taught most guys how to be great in a relationship. No one taught most guys how to look, to sort themselves out financially. And then we stuck with a lot of old paradigms from the past, which don't exist nowadays. Well, they exist because we believe them, but they don't have to exist nowadays. And we don't have to run our lives like the way our parents did, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yeah, it's just like make the change now, because, it's only going to get harder down the line.
So, what are like symptoms you would find within yourself, or for women like me who are like might be identifying them in their loved ones, right? What are like symptoms you would see show up when people are struggling, or men are, at the point where you go, actually, hey, you might want to have a chat to someone, or how can I help, or how can I support you?
Well, that's the problem, because with a lot of men, you'll never know that they're battling. They won't show it. All right. You ask them how things going, and they'll say it's fine. It's fine. I'm good. I'm good.
I thought it was
And
a women answer.
inside,
I'm
they might be
fine.
like falling apart. Well, the fine, yeah, probably the fine, yeah, but the just the general thing is like I'm good. So that's the difficulty. Men will soldier on because they think they have to, and they think they've got to. And yes, we do get to keep moving forward, but you don't have to do it on your own. So, what are the signs? Well, if there are signs, he's going to be more aloof, he's going to be more quiet, he's going to be more distracted, he's going to be, not participating as much, he's not going to be as open, but not necessarily. Some people have been like the joy of the party one day, and the next day they're gone. So there's no hard and fast rules. So you just got to be very observant as to changes in behavior, I guess, is the only thing we can say. And as from a woman perspective, be open to listening when the guy talks without interrupting, because the guy will start talking, and then you got to not respond, because then he'll go deeper if he has the space to start talking. But usually what happens is women will get in, jump in and, you got to do this, because that's how women communicate, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a guy doesn't open up easily, and so you've got to give them some space to open up even more and more and more, if they're willing to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when Tyrell was struggling with chronic fatigue and he wasn't in a good place. Um, I couldn't get him to open up in any shape or form. He was good, right? I'm fine. It's like, yeah, I can tell that you're not fine, but sure. The way I went around it is I literally rang his two best mates, and I'm like, it's time for you guys to show up. And they did. Very luckily, Terrell has an amazing, incredible network of men. And I literally went, I'm like, I can't help him with this, right? Like, I can't walk him through this. I need you guys to step in. And both of them showed up on the doorstep. And that's how his process started. That he had the conversations and, gone, okay, maybe I need support and help from someone else, which was great for me, because I was like, I had a couple of guys who literally, I can pick up the phone and go, but not necessarily everyone will have that opportunity to do so, right? To go and because men do. Like, I listen to boys, right? Like, so Tyrell has this riding group of men, which is quite, they go riding every year, at least once a year, lately twice a year, which is great. I really love it. But when I listen to them having a conversation, I go, you can spend like an hour talking to each other, literally saying nothing, right? Like, while women are like quite often in it, vulnerable, having the conversations and sharing the emotions, men can literally spend hours talking. And I'm like, what did you talk about? And Tara's answer was like, oh, nothing really. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So it's pretty
Yeah. Yeah.
impressive. So I
Um,
love the work you do. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the question I have for you, before we dive into who you are and why I brought you on here, what in the space of like, men struggling and having the challenges that they are facing sometimes, what role does money play in this struggle, in your opinion? Or is there even a role that it plays?
Yeah. What we find is that a lot of the guys that we work with, they would chase money, thinking that money would be the answer to everything. Okay, if and the thinking is like, if I have enough money, then I can buy the lifestyle I want. I can buy the things that I need and we want. We can travel, and yeah, to a degree, it's true that money does enable us to do more things, but it's not the answer for relationships. Yeah, and so what typically happens is we go through stages, and the first stage is like, we want more of everything, more money, more holidays, more cars, more houses, all of that. And then we get to a stage where we think like, actually, that doesn't do it for me, right? There's something still missing. And then we go to the next stage and we say like, oh, no, it should be better, things should be better. And so we try work at getting things better, better food, better houses, better cars, all right? And even then, that doesn't fulfill us. So it's really about recognizing that just having money alone is not the answer to happy relationships. Yeah, for example, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to feel fulfilled. And so that's a really key part of all of this, that money is important, but it doesn't address some of the most fundamental issues that people experience in their lives today.
So let's dive into the man Arthur, right? Who is Arthur, and why are we even having this conversation? So I've known you for quite some time. We've met probably about 3 years ago. You were an IAW coach. Now you are a lot like one of our features, right? We always call it the world of Arthur, and you share everything that's happening in the world and in the economics and from your point of view. But let's dive into who are you, like who are you to even support men, but also to have a view on the economics and investing. So share a little bit about your pathway, how you got here.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I started life off as an electronic engineer. Okay, that's what I studied, and I worked for News Corp. I worked for Reuters, just on the data side, running around sorting out IT infrastructures, and I did that for that was my first career, and then towards the end of that probably went for about 10 years. I decided that I wanted to be financially free. I wanted to work for myself. I didn't want to take orders from anybody else. I didn't want to play the game, the politics that you do when you get into corporate world. I had enough of that. And so I started looking around and thinking, okay, so how do I make some money? Once again, right? That was the initial focus, thinking that would be the answer to everything. Um, and then I decided that the way most rich people seem to have made the money was through property. And I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do property. And I was in London this was around 2003, and I got into the property game, buying and selling property, buying and renting property, and did that till 2008. Did pretty well on that side. So that got me my freedom, as I said, and set me up for the next career. So I had an engineering career, then I had a property investing career. And then I thought, okay, this isn't doing it for me anymore. I've got my property, but I want to do something else with my life. And then because I've been involved in personal development since I've been 26, I've been training with some of the best trainers in the world. You name it, I've probably done his courses or worked with them, because I just love the whole thing about personal growth and high performance and all of that good stuff. And so I thought, okay, well, what can I do now, with where I'm at? And I thought, okay, well, a friend actually said, why don't you think about coaching? Because it wasn't on my radar to go out and coach people, but I thought, okay, well, I have a lot of knowledge around personal development. I had a very logical background from the engineering career. Putting that together just helped me be able to work with people in a way that actually really simplified things and gave them a strategy to follow, which seemed for me was pretty easy, but for a lot of people, they seem to battle with that. And so then I stumbled into coaching. Initially, I wasn't clear on who I would be coaching. So I was dabbling. I was like, I think, oh, I'll be a wealth coach. Oh, no, I'll be this coach. Oh, I'll be this coach. But it was only through my own growth that I stumbled on the differences between masculine and feminine energy, and just drilling down into men's coaching specifically. And it started for myself, but then I thought, this is a great area to work in. And so I niched out into men's coaching, and been doing that ever since. So that's how I landed up in the coaching. From the financial position, though, once I made my foundation with property, I then started looking at other investments and saying, all right, well, I don't want to be all in property, because if something happens to property, interest rates or whatever, then I'm stuck. And so I started spreading out the assets and learning more about other asset streams and income streams, and so that's been a parallel sort of career that's been tracking my personal development career, which has been tracking my coaching career.
So from the asset diversification, right? You're saying you went out of property into what other asset classes did you diversify into?
Okay, so I got involved with commodities like gold and silver, because I think everyone needs to have some of that. I got into stocks and options. Obviously, I've got into crypto now. What else? Yeah, so I pretty much dabbled in most of the financial industry, and but right now I'm involved in stocks and options. I'm involved in crypto. I'm still involved in property, and forex as well. Let me not forget forex.
I know, it's like you are like forgetting like the key things you've been teaching around, trading and like in our community, sharing like your insights. So what interested you in like go, because we call it, the world in Arthur's eyes, and you quite often dive deeply into economics and around like macroeconomics, what's happening around the world and what does this actually mean. I mean, we've been talking, believe it or not, we've been talking about recession like 2 years ago with you, and New Zealand only owned up, literally only owned up in April that New Zealand is in the recession. And we're like, come on, really? It took you, like, we were talking about this like 2 years ago with you, right? And it's like, oh yeah, now finally they owned up and gone, oh yeah, it's not a bad one, but we are in a recession, and showing that they've been in a recession in the past a couple of years, but never actually owned up to it, right? From a
Right. Yeah.
statement perspective. So what made you like interest? I mean, personal development and coaching, I understand your pathway, your education, everything you've gone through, but like what made you go, now I want to know a little bit more about economics, and why should you even know more about economics?
Well, I think all of the coaching or looking after your finances or life as a whole, the key theme is you've got to take personal responsibility for it. If you don't take personal responsibility for your results, then you're going to be relying on other people. And that's never a good thing, right? Because most people out there you cannot trust. They don't know what they're talking about half the time. And the other half of the time, they just want to take your money. Okay. I don't want to be cynical, but that's the truth. So you have to take personal responsibility for everything. And you can't, hope is not a strategy. So if you're going to take personal responsibility, and let's be specific about finances, you cannot rely on other people for their education. You can rely on other people at times for help in investing money, and even that's a very narrow path. But you have to educate yourself so you know what they are planning to do with your money. Okay, and so if you're taking personal responsibility, you are learning about finances, you are learning the basics, and even not the basics, just even the more advanced stuff as well, because it's all free out there. You can learn all of this. Okay. And so if you don't have that knowledge, you cannot protect yourself. You cannot invest. You cannot grow necessarily unless you get lucky with someone that's really good that you can trust that will do it for you. And as I say, there's very few people that fit that model.
I think it's interesting because we've gone through a few years, even like seeing in the industry, like we've gone through from a few years of hey, I'm handing over my money to now everyone's going, I'm not giving you my money, I want control. So how do I, how do we build opportunities or how do we create opportunities for everyone without you having control of my cash, right? I don't know about you, but I've been in a few opportunities where I handed over money where I was like, I know this is a bad idea, and I did it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think we've all been there, and because you know what it is, there's two things that come up. One is that I just hope this works this time, right? We have this hope and this optimism, and at the same time, there's also this little thing that we humans have, which is called greed. Yeah, well, I want to jump on this bandwagon. We've suffered from FOMO, fear of missing out, and when you package all of that together, that's quite an emotional hit, just to sit on the sidelines and think like, I'm not going to get involved in this because it doesn't meet my money rules, or, there's a little bit of smoke here, but I can overlook it. And I guess that's part of the process of just learning how you operate, learning about your money rules, getting experience, so because how do you get good experience? You learn it from making mistakes. Poor decisions really lead to mistakes. If you learn from them, that's called experience. So yeah, I think in the last couple of years, we've all been guilty of maybe jumping in too soon with certain things, hoping for the best. And, and you, me, I'm sure quite a few other people have changed their money rules as a result. And now are wanting to be more in charge on their money. And so, in order not to make mistakes ourselves with that money, we have to educate ourselves on how to manage that money, how to trade that money, how to invest that money in ways that minimize risk. There'll always be risk, but what is risk? Risk is just a lack of knowledge about what it is you're doing, right? For the most part. And so you reduce your risk by learning as much as you can about what it is that you're doing with your money and how you're investing it and where you're investing it, and all of that. So, yeah, I mean, personal responsibility has to be number one.
Oh, I love it because I was like, this is everything that we stand for, and this is why we also do this podcast, right? Is for people to be able to educate themselves, and we always say you pay for your education one way or another, and if you don't educate yourself up front, then it will hurt on the other end. And look, we've all had these stories when I first started investing, and even like as a seasoned investor, I might do something where I go, yeah, that might have not been the smartest idea. I've learned the lesson, right? And that is my educational cash that I've put into it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think the key, is about like responsibility and understanding that you can learn this upfront. Like I had a coaching call with a client today, and I was saying to them, don't hurry investing your money, because if you are hurry to invest your money, you'll end up losing it, right? Like be very clear, and you're talking about money rules and asset allocation and diversification. Like be really clear of what is the goal of every single investment you're making, and why are you even diversifying, and what's the end game you're trying to achieve when you're making these plays, right? And emotion is, I think, the number one reason why we fail as investors, because we have human emotions. That's why algorithms do so well, because we have humans and we make decisions based on emotions rather than facts and figures and numbers. The other thing you're talking about is risk, which I love, because I started my journey in the crypto space. We are now going into the property space. We turned it around to you. And people would be like, oh, crypto is so risky. And I'm like, well, crypto is only risky if you don't know anything about crypto. Like to me, crypto until recently has been a lot safer bet, or a lot safer investment, not a bet, but investment, than going into property, because I didn't know enough about property. I had limiting beliefs around property, all that kind of stuff, where I went, well, the chances of me making money in crypto are higher than in property, mainly because of that, right? Because I was like, I was educated, I understood. I'm not saying I know the whole crypto space, but I understand enough of what I'm doing to go, this is, I'm comfortable with the risk that I'm taking because I believe in that space. So I love that you've made the differentiation that risk is actually just knowledge that you don't have.
Mhm.
But for everyone who's watching, most people are going, yeah, yeah, yeah. Why would I even bother investing if I actually I couldn't just make the next sale? Like, I'm making enough cash. I've got cash sitting in the bank. Might have one or two properties, right? Or even a little bit of gold to put their cash into. But why would they even bother specializing into or learning about this whole investment space?
Well, I would say number one is that you got to protect yourself, right? We have had numerous occasions where just having money in the bank was probably the worst thing to do. I live in Cyprus. A few years ago, one of the banks, one of the main banks, we had two main banks here in Cyprus. One of them went bang and took people's money, right? It was called a bail-in, right? And so, if you think your money is safe at where you bank, let me dispel you of that. If the shit hits the fan, and excuse my French, then there are ways and means that you will lose that money, even if okay, some banks say we'll guarantee the first 150,000 or 175,000, whatever it is, but banks aren't necessarily safe. So the number one thing is you got to diversify where you are holding your money. Number one, and also, if you only got your money in one currency, then you're risking that one currency. If something happens to the pound, to the Australian dollar, to etc., then you're going to take the full whack. So you want to diversify your savings. You want to protect your savings. And number three, if you've just got money in a bank account, inflation is eroding its buying value. So you're actually not saving your money, you're losing your money in the bank, right? You're losing your money in the bank because it's becoming worth less every single day. So in order to safeguard what you're working towards, you have to protect it and be clever about how you save it and where you store it, as well as mitigating the risk that it could be hit by any one of those factors, from financial or collapse or whatever. So I think people that just throw their money into a bank account are being lazy and irresponsible about their earnings, the financial situation. It's just like abdicating responsibility. Oh no, it's okay there. The banks will look after it. Well, yeah, we've seen that that's not necessarily true most of the time.
Well, let's talk about bail-in, because I mean this has happened all around the world, and I mean in the last couple of years, even in the US, banks went under, right? This is not this happened 10 years ago, or in the last recession, or whatever. It literally is happening right now. So most people don't actually understand what a bail-in law is, or that there even is one. So can you dive into it a little bit deeper to share with the audience about what does this actually mean for them, and what should they check out?
Okay. All right. So I can only talk about what happened here in Cyprus. And what happened is one of the banks, because of heavy loans or whatever, non-service loans, they ran into financial difficulty. And it was a political decision to shut down the bank, right? Not even the bank, all right? But in order to save the island or the economy of the island, they decided to shut down one of the banks. And the way they went about doing it was, in order to cover the debts that that bank had, they decided to take all the money of all the depositors, over anything over 100,000, they would take and put towards the debt of the bank. So if you had 1 million in there, you were left with 100,000, right? If you had 5 million, you were left with 100,000. So any cash deposits that were in your account at that time, over and above 100,000, was taken, right? There were promises of you would get shares down the line, and effectively you'll get your money back. People are still waiting 10 years down the line, Okay, so that's exactly what a bail-in is. It Money is taken from the depositors to pay the bank's debt. All right, and if you get something out of it, you're lucky. Sometimes, if a bank has gone bang, you might not even get anything out of it, right? Except for what was guaranteed by the government, if there was a guarantee by the government in that country.
And I think it's really important because most people go, oh, that doesn't happen in our country. But I think everyone should read around the bail-in laws in their countries because most countries have some sort of bail-in clause for the banks. And I think like that, I've spoken to a friend of mine, and one conversation we had was, like they were like, oh yeah, but we are the customer, we are looking at we are the customer of the bank, and we get sold to us that, hey, give us your money and you are our customer and we look after you. While in reality, we are not the customer. We are the one funding a bank, right? Like the money that we are putting into a bank is the money that is going to be used for them to generate more money, to leverage, to grow, to go, to borrow the money out. So it's like, I think that I can't remember the stats, but it's quite crazy. For every dollar that you put into the bank makes X amount, like more out of it before it gives it back to you. So it's technically you're loaning the bank money, and they sell it to you as a, we're doing you a service. This is what like is,
Yeah, it's
and I'm
exactly
like,
that.
I'm sorry, you go.
Yeah, it's exactly that. You deposit money, they give you, if you're lucky, like 2 to 3% a year currently, right? And they making 10, 20, 30% on that money monthly, right? Because they pool all of that money, they chuck it up into the high frequency tradings that they have. They're making a ton of money on the back of you, and then they're only giving you a small fraction of the returns. So why not be your own bank? Why not be your own bank and get all of the returns instead of trusting them? So you're taking the risk of leaving money with them. They're taking you to the cleaners, right? And then they're trying to let you know, to convince you that you being a safe investor or a educated investor. No, they're just hoping that you'll take out as much debt from them as possible, and they're hoping you're going to deposit as much money with them as possible. And then that's it. They've got all the control. You've got none.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we don't. It's not. This episode isn't about doom and gloom on banks, but people
Yeah.
like. I think when you're listening to this, the thing you need to understand, or it might resonate with you, is a bank is a business. As you're doing a
Yeah.
business and you're taking the cash of your clients and doing whatever you're doing with it, so does the bank. The bank is just a lot smarter and a lot cleverer about it because they do, like you say, make 10, 20, 30% every month on your money, and then they feed their side of it, which is fair. You've chosen to be their client, you've chosen to be their investor and their funder, so they're doing exactly that. um, so I think it's more about, like, for me, it's about like being clear of where you're putting your money. So if you're saying, safeguarding your money, you're putting it into cash. Like if you have a lot of cash sitting there, even though I'm not saying in the bank account is probably the worst place to have it, but even if you're starting with like, do I have it in one bank or multiple banks, right? And do I have it separated? Because if something like this happens, the bank goes under and there's a bail-in law, how much of your money is actually protected. The other side is, if people go, okay, but how do I protect my money? Do I just put the cash under my pillowcase and go and sleep on it every day? Like, what are like ideas and thoughts around? And big disclaimer: this is not advice, not even general advice. This is just a conversation between two mates. Um, what are like places that people like that we can look into to go and say, I'm going to safeguard my cash outside of the bank and the
Yeah.
pillowcase?
Sure. So I think having some money under your pillowcase is a good thing. All right. So having some money at home, not a lot, but just say having access to cash at home is always a good thing. But you want to spread it out, as you said, Paulina. You want to spread it out over if you've got a lot of money, you want to spread it out over different currencies and different banks. Number one. That spreads your risk, your currency risk. That spreads your bank risk. Then you also want to look at, say, okay, what has been a great store of value over the centuries, and although it doesn't earn an income for you, it is something that should be part of your portfolio, and that is gold and silver, right? Storing gold and silver, and right now we're just about to hit a massive bull run on gold. So it's not a bad time to get some. Once again, this is not advice, but before it gets more expensive. So gold and silver, at times when the economy is shaky, a lot of money flows into gold and silver and commodities. And also now a lot of money is going into Bitcoin as the digital gold. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that you should necessarily put your savings into Bitcoin. I don't think it'd be a bad idea because we're going to bull run with that as well. But if you don't know anything about Bitcoin, that's not where you go to, number one. All right. But what you could do is learn about crypto and park some money in one of the stable coins, right? That's available. And a stable coin, for those of you that don't know, is a coin in, let's call it crypto land on the blockchain, which is pegged to the dollar. Okay. And so once again, that could be your other bank, where you can store some money in there. Obviously, it's pegged to the dollar, so what that dollar will do will happen to your deposit, and so you do have some risk as to currency risk, but it's another place to store it. Once again, you just need to know what you're doing, but it's a pretty straightforward thing to do. And so, and the other thing is, yeah, I mean, if you want to put into real estate, that's another one that I'm always going to be a fan of. Not liquid, and definitely, not the best yields around lately, because you might get a 3, 4, 5% yield over the year, which is not great, as far as what other returns that you can get. And so commodities, real estate, different banks, different currencies, some in crypto land, and I think that should be more than enough.
So that's storing your cash, right? Or holding your like a portfolio, what we call a part of foundational assets, where it's more around
Yeah.
securing what you've got than making your money work harder for you. So when do you think people should consider storing and securing their cash versus going into building a portfolio that will make them more money? Like where do you
Okay.
think is the difference?
All right. So I think it's stages. I think one is you got to have your nest egg or whatever sorted, and then I think parallel you got to be educating yourself and getting involved in deploying some of that money into earning a better return. Because sitting in a bank at 3% a year after inflation, after charges, because they'll charge you as well, you're probably left with a negative growth. So you want to be investigating how can I grow my cash um, at the same time. This is part of the whole idea of taking responsibility for your money. Part of it is how do I protect it, and part of that is how do I grow it. Okay, because yeah, you might have a great job, you might earn a lot, but things could change suddenly. What happened in COVID? How many people lost their great jobs because everything came to a standstill? Uh, yeah. And so just because you are earning and you're confident that you can earn doesn't mean you will always be able to earn. And so having multiple streams of income is essential for your freedom and your protection. Okay. So I'm another proponent on multiple streams of income. So the more you have, the more safe you are, as far as I'm concerned.
I think, yeah, you're making a great point here because most people who are listening to this are either a business owner or really good in what they do and earning really good in earning money. But the key is, and I think COVID or any black swan event show, even like from an investing point of view, FTX was one of those black swan events where if you have your money only in one basket, the chances of it being wiped out is just so much higher, right? So you are diversifying in income streams, and like you're doing with protection and safety of your money, you're also diversifying in income streams to go, okay, if one falls over, the other one will pick up. So that And I think that has a, like, one big thing is you talked about freedom, but it's like the security, right? The security of going,
Mm.
I'm doing everything that I can to protect myself, my family, and the people around me by ensuring that I have multiple exit strategies. I've got multiple income strategies, and I protect myself in various forms per se, right? Because not one individual strategy is a safe strategy if you only have one strategy, because you don't know what will be the next thing that could happen.
Yeah, exactly. Which is it's the same concept. You're not putting everything in one bank or one investment. You have to spread it out, and because you might take a hit on one or two, but then because you've got five, six others, then it's only a small percentage of your overall pot.
Yeah, and I mean, a perfect example right now is even property, right? 2, 3 years ago, so many people went into property. Money was cheap to get, 2, 3%. Over leveraged, went in, and now we're in a world of pain. Interest rates went up.
Mm.
Their fixed mortgages are coming off, which means that they have to now suddenly, like, we know people who are suddenly doing 30, 40, 50, 60, 70K more a year just on interest payments, right? So it's not, and just having a strategy of one, like property or cash or whatever it is always going to be like, with the changes to the economic cycles which are coming and going. We all live in seasons, right? Not just us
Yep.
as human beings, but also the economy, the financial, the investment space. Every asset class has its own cycle. So it is really important to go, how do I diversify into multiple strategies at the right time as well? And that's where education comes in for me. It's all nice and well that people go, oh, you should, like, someone might listen to this in 6 months and go, oh, Arthur said it's really good time to buy gold. No, Arthur didn't say it's a really good time to buy gold or Bitcoin. Arthur didn't give you advice, and you're looking at it and it might be 6 months down the track. Arthur said you need to get educated and
Hmm.
understand where you are even in your cycle, right? And understand, is it, like, learn about, is it a good investment right then and there at that time.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Arthur, for everyone who's listening, what are, like, a couple of key takeaways you would like them to get from this conversation around, um, investing and education and everything we've just talked about?
So yeah, I think number one
The
is
world is not doom and gloom, by the way. Even though Arthur
sorry.
always
So
says the world is doom and gloom, I said the world is not all doom and gloom. Even though every time we have a conversation, I'm going, the world is about to end.
look, there's always good stuff happening and bad stuff happening, and we get to focus on what we can control and not what we can't. If we focus on what we can't control, then we're going to get lost. So focusing on what we can control, I think key things are, and based. I mean, this is what I did. When I decided I wanted to go into property, I went and found someone that could help me do that, and that changed everything for me. That accelerated my progress 100 times. So that didn't take me a year to learn. It took me like 2 months to learn, and then I just went and repeated the pattern. Bang, 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 bang. The strategy. So number one is, yes, you can do it on your own, but you decide how long you're willing to take to learn. Because if it's longer than 6 months to a year, you are going to be behind a lot of progress. So get help, right? Get help. Find someone that that you resonate with, someone that you trust, and work with them to educate yourself. Two, take personal responsibility. And maybe this is the first thing you've got to do. Take personal responsibility and say, if it's going to be, it's up to me, right? Don't trust anyone else to do it for you. No one else cares as much as you do. So take personal responsibility, believe you can do it, find someone that can help you, right? And steady progress, incremental progress, 1% every day. Just start educating yourself, learning. Find one industry that you resonate with, go there. And then I guess fifth, sort out where you are right now, your base, so you know where you're coming from, and then get clear on the vision of where you want to go, because then you've got all the pieces. You've got your trajectory, you've got your starting point, you've got your end point, you've got the person you trust to work with or the people you trust to work with, and then take personal responsibility in those results. Never, never, never abdicate that responsibility.
How much, final question before I let you go, how much does personal, like how, let me rephrase this, how intertwined is the personal development of like your own inner work, we're going back to men and struggling and what lonely wolves, how much is of the inner work that you need to do and who you need to be intertwined with your financial journey of like being able to grow, accelerate, and keep the money that you're earning?
It's that's the most important thing. I think 70 to 80% of what we do is based on our subconscious behaviors. We think we're in control and we think we are making wise decisions, but a lot of time we're just rehashing old patterns and programs that we've inherited from our parents, or from society. And unless you get awareness around those, they will always show up, because your subconscious mind is so much more powerful than your conscious mind. So that's why we need outside eyes in, as I call it, having other people looking at us and talking with us, because they can spot what we don't see for ourselves. And we have to shift a lot of those patterns before we can see the abundance that we truly want, because most people are stuck in scarcity mode. And that's a mindset thing. So if you're not working on your mind, then you are leaving 80% on the table.
So for all these incredible men out there who are listening to this, if they want to get hold of you or want to connect with you, to work with you, what's the best way to get hold of you?
Right. So I work together with the coaching company called thepowerfulman.com. So they can go there direct and have a look and see if the message there resonates with them. If you want to have just a chat with me, just to see what might be the next steps for them, they can just reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. They can find me quite easily. Not too many Arthur Magoulianitis running around out there.
No, the biggest trick will be to actually spell your name correctly, which after 3 years I'm still practicing.
Keep going.
Yeah. Anyway, for anyone who's listening, if you want to reach out to Arthur, thepowerfulman.com, or Arthur on Facebook and LinkedIn, reach out, have a conversation with him. Arthur has some knowledge. This is just scratching the surface around the knowledge that Arthur brings to our community, not only in regards to mindset and personal development, but also in the economic space and the financial, diversification of your portfolios. It is a subject that is more important than ever, and I think also understandable, more attainable than ever, to be your own, like in control of your money, in control, like in charge, taking responsibility. And I think number one is being in control and being responsible with what you're in control of. Arthur, thank you so much for spending the hour with me, having this conversation. You always share so much wisdom and insights. I always keep learning from you every day I talk to you. So thank you from the audience and everyone else. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.